Welcome to the Montana Sportscast podcast as we talk about high school sports around the great state of Montana. If you like our broadcast, please click on the subscribe button below. And joining us today, we got Blake Hempstead from Anaconda for our high school podcast. Blake, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you got going up there in Anaconda.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I'm the owner of Copperhead Country Media. We stream Anaconda games primarily. We've done some other things in the past. Copperheadcountry.org. You can listen live to all the Copperhead games. We got a big one tonight. Of course, it really doesn't make sense to
Right.
promote it now because we'll be, a day behind on the editing. But Loyola is in town tonight. Really looking forward to see them. The boys, especially, they're a solid team this year, and they were my preseason pick to actually win the State B coming into it, just because of the young kids they have coming back and the coaching staff and the roots they have there. But Anaconda on the other side has really been impressive so far this year with first year new head coach Dakota Norris, and the kids have been playing above what I believed they could do. They're showing some athleticism. They're also a young team, so yeah, it'll be fun one tonight and something we can touch on next week.
Yeah, talk a little about. You got a couple players there from Anaconda. You were telling me about. Let's start out with them, and then we'll jump into the conference standings.
And it's really not just these individual players, but of course we're limited on time, and we can talk more about the others when the season turns around. But the ones that are really standing out, two juniors, McKenna Patrick and River Hurley. McKenna has just been off the charts lately, and it's been a lot because of the Anaconda defense. She's creating her own turnovers, creating her own points. I mean, her stat line is unbelievable. She's 4.3 steals, 3.2 deflections, 3 assists. She's averaged, what is it? She's had 31, 36, and 29 in her last 3 games. She's shooting 51% from the field. I think she's averaging 22.2 points per game right now, and she's climbing up that list to where getting close. I mean, she's got a lot of work to do, but getting close to that 1,000-point mark, which, is kind of the benchmark in high school or even college athletics.
Right.
But only 3 girls have ever done it in Anaconda: Tori Hill, Allie Hurley, and Courtney Moudry. Courtney Moudry Flack now.
Right.
So
All
it's
right.
really impressive.
Yeah, and she's. I got her down as 5'8", junior. Is that correct?
I would say she's closer to 5'9", but yeah, she's in
Okay.
that 5'8" to 5'10" range. Mostly what you see a guard in Montana girls athletics. So yeah.
And it's kind of funny, Blake. You've been doing this for basketball and following it forever. I know, and I coached a lot of years and coached a lot of girls, and the days of 5'4" and 5'5" guards are gone.
Yes.
And we did well with some 5'4" and 5'5" guards, but you just don't see much of them anymore in high school basketball in Montana. And I never really thought about it until you brought that up about how tall she is and being a guard. But it's just kind of one thing that shows you how basketball has changed in the state of Montana.
Well, and I attribute that to a lot of the club and AEU stuff. Is they're starting them out so early now, 2nd and 3rd grade, doing travel ball, and they're teaching all the kids ball skills. So it's no longer that your tallest girl is or boy is going to play post. When's the last time you
Yeah.
actually read a starting lineup and it said center in there? I mean, you have your 6'7" or 6'8"
Right.
guys, but I mean, you look at
Yeah.
the college level, even Montana State, have 6'8" shooting guards. Even at the frontier level, you guys know that, you and Penisco
Yeah.
doing all the frontier level stuff. It's no longer, you're 6'1", you're playing guard. You're 6'8", you're playing post. No, those guys, they're shooting the basketball. So it really has evolved the game. Absolutely.
Well, you brought up kind of a popular basketball name in Hurley. Talk a little bit about River Hurley and their Anaconda.
Well, and his dad is going to shoot me if he sees this. He doesn't know anything about a computer or even know how to get onto his phone to do anything. But of course, he's the youngest son of Rob Hurley. Rob is one of those 13 players that have scored 1,000 points in Anaconda High School history, and that name is littered with names that resonate throughout Montana. But
Right.
River is really coming into his own last year as a sophomore and as a boy, a little late to develop. I mean, he had the weight, but he didn't really develop into his size. This year, 6'5", can really stretch the floor. Tuesday against Corvallis, he had 20. He had 6 threes, 1 3 that he noticed. He was 3 seconds left on the shot clock after it was tipped around, and he pulled up from inside the jump circle and knocked it down. So the kid has range. He can shoot like his old man. Well, not necessarily shoot like his old man. He's showing signs of being able to shoot like
Right.
Rob used to. And of course, Rob is the all-time scoring leader in terms of a game for Anaconda. He had 44, and that was at Billings West without a three-point line. So, I mean, it's kind of a historic number in Anaconda.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you bring up the 3-point line. I kind of glad they didn't have the 3-point line. And when I was in high school, we played Busby, and Melbourne Eagle Feathers probably would have had 60 points a game instead of 40. But anyway, let's jump into the standings. I'll throw those up for you, Blake, and we'll talk about the standings in the Western B. That's kind of what you're going to talk about, and where we're at.
Well, obviously, Big Fork is going to be on both the boys and girls side. Big Fork is going to be the tough team to beat. Big Fork and Missoula Loyola on the boys side is just a heavyweight matchup. Big Fork is their last year in Class B, and Missoula Loyola is just coming into their own. All these kids are going to be coming back for another year at Loyola. Their youth program is really good. The freshmen that are coming up, you got an old Anaconda kid on that Loyola team. His dad, Dan Haffey, of course, the young man's name is Haffey. He'll be playing. I think he's their 5th starter. If not, he's the first one off the bench. But a lot of size, a lot of length. Loyola is going to be really tough to beat. And that little matchup between the 7B and the 6B in Missoula Loyola and Big Fork is really going to be heavyweights. And not to discount Anaconda or Arlee or anybody like that, but it really has or is going to kind of shake out that Loyola and Big Fork on the boys' side are, kind of the 2 top teams that are going to probably see each other in the postseason. In terms of the girls, Anaconda, of course, they're 1-0 in conference. Missoula Loyola is also 1-0 in conference. Anaconda just got a big win on the road against Corvallis. They won by 21, and they had 33 turnovers and still won by 21. So the girls' side, led by McKenna Patrick, Mania Lunsford, a really good post player that can stretch out, hit. I mean, she's their best free throw shooter. She can really stretch a defense and play well. They have a couple juniors that have just kind of come into their own, started playing varsity this year. So, yeah, really good team in Anaconda. They had a good non-conference win early on in the season against Thompson Falls. They beat Thompson Falls at home. They did fall at home to 5B. Wow.
I wish I could help you, but I can't.
I'll think of it here in a second. Sorry, just lost my
Okay.
train of thought. But on the girls' side in the 7B, Big Fork, of course, they advanced to the state tournament last year, had a pretty bad shooting performance in their semifinal to where they didn't advance to the championship and then lost on Saturday, which you see a lot of hangovers usually. But Big Fork, they are star-studded. They have 2, if not 3, Division I potential players on that Big Fork team. And quite honestly, if you're a Class B fan, it's nice to not have to see Big Fork after this year. They're going to be really tough to beat in Class A as well.
Yeah. Yeah. They, and not only basketball, but they're pretty talented in that football game too. So
They're
yeah,
going to have no problem moving up to Class A. And of course, I remember, back when I was doing, I've been calling games for 21 years as I'm in my 21st year doing games on either the radio with KANA and now with the Copperhead Country Stream. And I remember the last year that Big Fork was in Class A. Anaconda beat them at home and they moved into Class B, and they really took that move well. They won the state championship within 2 or 3 years, I believe, in Class B, and then they've been to the top. They've been to the playoffs almost every year. One of the teams that they really struggled with is Eureka, and they've caught up and
Right.
seemingly past Eureka. So it's going to be fun to watch what Big Fork can do, and a lot of good people up in Big Fork. I've enjoyed my time going up there. Get treated like royalty, quite honestly. James LaFontaine does a lot of their games, streams a lot of their games on their YouTube page, and got to know him a little bit over the years, and he's just one of those crazy local guys and super loyal, and just doing what we can to get these kids' names out there.
Yeah, and that's kind of what this podcast is all about. We all were on yesterday, and that's what I said. I want to discover some diamonds in the rough, for lack of better words. That I also want to have some fun for us doing this. But Blake, you've seen a few games with the shot clock.
Mhm.
Let's talk a little bit about that. And I we talked about it yesterday a little bit, but and I've even seen some people or talked to some people that said, well, they didn't reset it at 20 seconds, and that's what it is at college. It resets at 20 seconds on several different items, and that's not here. But talk about what you've seen thus far, and the effects of the shot clock.
Well, one thing I didn't mention yesterday when we were on, speaking with, of course, Jay Lemlin, who, of course, is an Anaconda High grad. So, yeah, I got a bunch of stories about the Lemlin family babysitting me when I was a kid. But we'll get into that another time.
We'll get
Um,
both of you on here at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah. Well, I
There
yeah
we
I
go.
I caused a severe injury to his brother chasing me as I shut screen door on his arm and cut him all up.
Oh.
But again, that's a good talk for another time. But the shot clock, everybody was so glad around the state that when the shot clock came up, and I do believe it's a positive change to the game. It's making things equal across the board throughout the whole federation of high schools through each state. Hopefully, all the states can kind of get on board with it. But I knew there was going to be problems because in some small schools, even like I said, Anaconda is one of the bigger Class B schools. You're going to have problems getting people to run that shot clock. And the shot clock is much more difficult to manage than the regular clock is. And quite honestly, we are seeing a downturn in officials. So we're having trouble getting not necessarily quality officials, but any officials at all as masters to do these varsity games. So one thing the shot clock does is it brings another item for them to go up and look at during the game. So they have to pay attention to something else. All the crews now are primarily three-man crews or three-person crews, I guess. But the shot clock, although it is a great addition, it's also going to cause problems. How many of those small Class C schools can actually get somebody in to properly manage and run that shot clock to where there's not those resetting issues and those issues like that? Because it's not as easy as it looks. It's not you're just flipping a button and you're starting at 35 seconds when the ball comes into play. It's it's pretty technical. And we've seen, like you mentioned, we've seen errors in Frontier League, in Division 1. We've seen errors on the shot clock. So it's basically like adding a fourth official to the game. So hopefully it doesn't affect any games. I haven't seen it. I think the shot clock buzzer has went off maybe a handful of times, maybe five at the very most. The ones that we've done. So, and like I said, Class B, you're not going to see the shot clock become an issue. It's just not going to become
No.
an issue. It's an up and down game. Class AA, you're going to see it. It's more of a slow down pace. I think just because of the physicality is a little bit different. Class A, in some schools, they do like to, take some time off the shot clock and run, a more set offense. But in the Class B ranks, it's up and down. It really is a different game.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know whether it was you that made the comment or who it was yesterday when we were all on, but I think it's an improvement for the game of basketball across the board for Montana and across the nation as far as that goes in high school. But whether it affects that many teams in Montana, uh, I would say it's maybe going to affect maybe 5% of the basketball teams in Montana, basically. And I don't think a lot of that's not going to come into effect, Blake, until we get to tournament time.
Yeah. And one of the things that we mentioned during tournament time, not necessarily the divisional tournaments, but state tournaments, I believe it's going to be run well because, like you
Yeah.
said, they hire crews to run that. So when you're on the state campuses, when you're on Montana State, you're going to get a college crew that is used to the shot clock. So you're going to get that properly managed. And like I said, hopefully during the divisional tournament, I know the Anaconda, the Western B divisional is in Anaconda this year. Uh, Hopefully it doesn't come down to where there's, a
Hmm.
conflict or anything like
Yeah.
that, because it is so tough for an official just to watch the action going on the floor. To actually have to look up and watch the shot clock, it takes your eyes away from what's going on the floor. So it really is, a huge jump for Montana. It's not just as the simplicity of, another clock going off. So
Right.
hopefully everything goes smoothly. I think from what I've seen this year, the officials, they do have a handle on it. But getting that other person on the bench, it's going to be a work in progress.
Yeah. Well, Blake, thanks for coming on today. We appreciate your knowledge there in Anaconda and keeping an eye on the Western B Force and reporting to us. It's always great to talk to you. And thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, looking forward to next week. Get to watch Dougie Peoples and Butte Central. Anaconda's going over there. Got another big game against Florence next week for Anaconda. So happy to watch Loyola tonight and kind of give you a heads up on what goes on with that.
All right.
Back in the late 1960s, one of the top college football programs in the nation were the Wyoming Cowboys. In 1968, they went 7-3. Then the next two seasons, Wyoming put together impressive back-to-back 10-1 seasons. But from 1970 to 75, the Cowboys suffered more losses than wins. What happened? Well, have you ever heard of the Black 14 controversy? During the 1969 season, Wyoming started 6-0. Their next game was against BYU, but the season before in Provo, the Wyoming black players were subject to racial taunts. So the day before the huge rivalry game, a group of 14 black players met with Wyoming head coach Lloyd Eaton and asked if they could wear black armbands after what took place the year before. Plus, the players also wanted to protest the fact that at that time, BYU excluded black students. To say Coach Eaton was livid would be an understatement. He not only said no, but kicked all 14 off the team. The result? The Cowboys would not win another game that season and went a dismal 1-9 the following year.
And once again, we want to thank you for watching and listening to our podcast here on Montana Sportscast. We want to thank our guests that come on and join us each day and talk about sports around the state of Montana. Until next time, take care, God bless, and support those high school student athletes.